Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching Moneywise on NDTV Profit, and my name is Alex Mathews. It is around Dhanteras. So let me start by wishing you and your families a very happy Dhanteras. And ordinarily around this time, we speak about investments in gold and silver, physical assets. But today I'd like to take a little bit of a different stance, not because gold and silver are as expensive as they are today, but because perhaps it's now time for you to widen the ambit. Perhaps it's now time for you to look at art as an investment. But how do you value art? Should you look at Indian art differently from what you would in, say, the Louvre in Europe? And why is it that art appreciates after the painter or the artist passes away? If you are looking to create a career as an artist, what do you bear in mind? I'd like to cover some of these aspects on today's episode. Joining me today is an accomplished artist and a curator of art, Mitu Basu. And I've also got Ketan Karani, who has been speaking to us about the stock market for years, but he has, over the last several years, been an art collector and a proponent of Indian art. So the perfect panel, I think, to talk about some of these aspects. Let me start with you, sir, because I think to lay the context, today the conversation I want to do is more about art as an investment, so my viewers will perhaps need to have a sense of the landscape. How do you describe Indian art as a landscape when you compare it with the global landscape?
So if you look at Indian art, the only way we can describe it is that it's deeply undervalued and underrepresented on a global scale. If you have seen some of the prizes of Hussain sir, Raza sir, Souza ji, Vasudev Gaitunde ji, the prizes have certainly shown some appreciation, and some of them are quoting at lifetime highs. But if you look at contemporary art in Western world or new artists in Western world, they sell for like $10 and $15 million. The masters like Vasudev Gaitunde, Hussain ji, Tayyab Mehta, Souza, Raza, if you have comparative artists in Western world, they sell for $100 million plus, $50 to $100 million plus.
Wow.
So if you miss, this is Indian art is deeply undervalued, deeply underrepresented, and deeply underowned. So the line for growth for Indian art is huge if you compare a 10-20 year horizon.
Yeah.
And the underrepresentation on a global scale is primarily because people don't know who Indian artists are, who Indian masters are.
Okay.
It is very important and pertinent that we, as you are doing a show, that people realize that this type of investment is a huge wealth creator also.
We'll come back to that. I want you to weigh in on this. As an Indian artist, as somebody that paints prolifically, you have so many, and I know for a fact that you have canvases lying at home that nobody has probably ever seen. And so therefore, the question to you, as an artist in India, do you agree with what Ketan is saying?
I look at it as a virgin landscape that is absolutely on the threshold of sparking off. And I see this as a great opportunity. Like, to do an analogy, they said, someone had to go and sell slippers and said, there's no feet.
Yeah.
And you know that analogy. And then someone saw it as an opportunity that everyone needs a slipper here. So if that is the case, if that's a reality, because he's in the market and he is saying that, we have to agree, because we are really underrepresented. And we do have very few. Imagine a population like ours having 5, 6, 10, not even a full hand of artists who are known. It is a sad reality. And I think this discussion that we are going to be having now is so pertinent and so timely because we need the big players like the corporates to come in and to invest. And we have to make it attractive.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that. But there is also the factor of artists that have passed away that are valued always more. And I mean, there are famous stories about Van Gogh. There are famous stories, of course, about Hussain and various other artists. Why is that? Is it because there was a certain recognition while the artist was alive? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly after it was discovered, there is no possibility of there being more supply. And so because there's limited supply, the value just shoots up.
I agree with you because your question itself has an answer.
Sure.
Because if you look at Vasudev Gaitonde, who is considered one of the greatest artists, or Hussain sir, means when Vasudev Gaitonde expired, he did not have much art left with him. In fact, when he was painting, also Vasudevji used to paint 5, 6, 7 artworks in a year max. You mentioned Van Gogh. Van Gogh, during his lifetime, sold only one painting in his life.
Yeah.
And that too to his brother Theo. After his death, Theo's wife took upon her to market or provide the world how Van Gogh painted and what his paintings are. And to come to the question where the artist expires and then so the maturity of an artist generally happens between a 45 to 65 years of age, when his art really flourishes from that point of view. And once he is no more due to reasons of death, we are all die one day. So when he's not there, the supply becomes rare, impossible to have, is zero. And then people start discovering the artist. And that is when the discovery happens. People start reading about his life. People start reading about his stories, what he was. If you look at Vasudev Gaitonde, because I love so if you look at Gaitonde ji or Hussain ji, they may have their own controversies, but they have bigger canvas of global things. Vasudev Gaitonde drew his inspiration from Kandinsky. Barve sir drew his inspiration from Paul Klee. Hussain sir was called the Picasso of India.
Sure. So talking about discoverability of artists, we're at the Pula Deshpande Maharashtra Art Academy, and this is one of the foremost displays of arts that you might have in the center of the city. Of course, there are galleries in a large number of places in Maharashtra, in the rest of the country as well. But this is quite the display of art around us. You are a curator of art as well, and you facilitate the displaying of art. Talk about that aspect, because you said marketability is important. People should be able to view art in order to buy it, in order to purchase it. Do you think that that is at a very nascent stage in India?
See, at the end of the day, we really can't put our finger on a pulse on this. I'll tell you why. Because I always felt that artists normally pay for a certain space. And because they paid for that space, they want to crowd it.
Sure.
And that's not the way to see, because we need negative space to appreciate art, to visualize it in our homes and things like that. But when I went to Vietnam or I went to Bali, I saw art being stacked.
Sure.
And hugely bought.
Okay.
There is no room on both sides. It's stacked on the wall. It's not even hanging. And people are just walking in and buying and going. And that's because of their maturity of
But was it affordability also?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's because they have understood the market. They've gone by economies of scale. And they're prolific in their paintings, and they've lowered their price.
Sure.
So, but their paint is fantastic. The paintings are, the material, whatever they've used, it's all fantastic.
Interesting.
But here, it's, the whole attitude is quite different. We have to break it. We have to make artists understand what and how to go about selling their art.
So that is an important point that you've raised, and we'll go to that in the second part of this conversation. But I do want to talk about buying the art in the first place. So we've talked about the fact, Mitu made the point that the known artists in India are very few. And ultimately, if you're talking about buying art, this is something that you go to, and Ketan, you know this for a fact, you go to once you've achieved a certain scale, once you've made investments in the equity market and you've achieved a certain amount of wealth. You look for the good things in life. You have a good home. You want to display a beautiful piece of art. There's a difference between having an artwork, which is a statement piece, and there is a difference between buying a piece of art thinking that you could sell it down the line. How do you draw that difference?
Before answering that, I would like to add something what Mitu ji stated. I want to state that the display of art, when you said how is it, we don't have much display in India, frankly.
Yeah.
I would like to compare it the total Indian art gallery as well as the museums which are there in India. And if you go to only one district in New York, Chelsea, Manhattan, it has more galleries than entire India.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is the way display is required.
Sure.
That kind of display is required. Secondly, I want to just compare to look at the how people want to put their place in art in the home. If you look at the property prices, how they have moved, 10 crore to 100 and 700 crore flats are being sold. Average ticket size is 50 to 100 crore of luxury, semi-luxury or whatever. I have seen not a single art in those homes.
Oh, yeah.
Not a single art. I can quote one of my very good friends who has a 15th floor story building for himself and his family. Not a single piece of art is there.
Why do you think that is?
People are not understanding that art is for appreciation as well as investment. You appreciate something and then it's a long-term process. Equity market, we generally believe 1 year is the long term. It's not that way.
So you're saying that you buy artwork, and of course you could buy it for different reasons. You could be walking down the street and you could see a street artist put something together, and you can buy that just because you'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
But when you've reached that stage, as you pointed out, you buy it because, yes, like I was saying, it is a statement.
It's a
piece.
statement.
But it's also something that you could sell. But where would you sell it, and why would you sell it? Is the question.
The question here is the sellability is also restricted as the buyers are restricted and the visibility is restricted.
Right.
It's a vicious circle. Who comes first? The chicken and egg story.
Right.
So the more display will happen, we have very good auction houses over here like Saffron or Ashtaguru. They are doing great work. Absolutely, Dinesh Wazirani ji or Tushar Sethi ji, all are doing great work. Kiran Nadar ma'am is doing great work. There are museums being set.
Sure.
Hero Honda, Sunil Munjal is setting up a museum in Goa. All those things. But they are individual efforts. We need a collective effort on an India scale basis. And also government's efforts are also needed. This is the way art will flourish. Yes, people in Barnes have asked me, Barnes Museum in Philadelphia, is there art in India?
Which is shocking.
Which was shocking to me and my both. We were stunned, spellbound, stunned, and we could not answer for 2 minutes.
Are you shocked by that statement,
I'm
Mitu?
saddened.
You're saddened by that
I'm
statement?
saddened by the statement, but it's a truth.
Yeah.
It's a truth because here, every second home, there's an artist. But it's not a collective like, Ketan ji has said. It's not a collective effort. Every artist wants to be isolated and try and do the thing in their own way.
Sure.
It's not to be done like that. If you want to really grow, then
Collaboration.
government, collaborations, interdisciplinary, not only with painters and photographers, dancers and singers. I do that in all my shows.
So I have a question, and this is to both of you. Both of you can come in on this. I'll start with you though, because you paint as well, and you invest in art. So first, from your perspective, art is something that is so subliminal to each person. I look at any of the paintings in this room and I will have a different interpretation. Of course, there will be the marketer that pens something and says, this is what the artist thought. But then I might feel something else entirely.
Interpreted.
So the question is, how do you as a potential buyer of art value something? Because I could theoretically, hypothetically, look at a painting that you've done and value it at 50% more than the other person does, anybody else that looks at it. So it's so subjective that how do you put a value to it?
So it's actually, Alex, it's not so subjective anymore.
It's not.
It used to be in an era where things were not transparent. But today, things are transparent. Artists must realize this, that it is not transparent, it is accountable and it's measurable. So there are three different kinds of buyers. Someone can buy for passion, and that means his ROI is already taken care of because he's got his gratification. It's done. Someone can buy for badge value, like you were talking about, it's a statement. And you've got your gratification. I own a Hussain, and that's it. Okay, and it puts you, it piggybacks you onto a branding of Hussain. So that's fine again. But we are talking about investing in art. Now, if I'm investing in art, tomorrow, if you want to invest in the stock market, will you just go out there, learn the candlesticks a bit, learn the moving averages, and learn, the CAGR of this is this, and then put it all together and say, I know which stock to buy? Will you do it that way?
No.
Or will you go to a wealth advisor?
Or I would study the company and look at the potential cash flows.
Even if you study the company in isolation, you will never be able to do it like a wealth advisor who's dedicated to that.
Sure.
If today a startup wants an investor, will the investor come out into the market to search? Will the startup go? No, there's a VC.
Sure.
The VC will do the due
So
diligence,
who
and
does that for art?
so for art, it is the galleries like Dolna and many other galleries, whoever. But we are the people who are dedicated to this. We know the parameters by which an artist can be called investor ready.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
You may buy a piece of art, and tomorrow that artist may decide, I don't feel like doing art anymore. I just want to do something else, you know? And what do you do with that piece of art? It's not investment. It was passion, it's fine.
Sure.
So what we have to do now is investors must come into the picture, come to galleries, talk to galleries like Dolna and other galleries, find out and tell that this is my budget,
Sure.
you know, and this is my window
Sure.
of investment. And we will then package a whole deal.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. Do you agree, or do you think that there's nuance?
There are different ways to buy and there are different ways to hold. I would just make a statement which says, this has been a general rule. If the first generation buys art, generally the third or the fourth generation sells. Art requires maturity. A painting requires a maturity time to get appreciated. Artist also requires a maturity time to get appreciated as well as get valued. So those valuations happen over a period of decades. It's not going to happen today and tomorrow. It's not like stock market investing. We know a fundamental, next 5 years we know what it will do, and then the art is a very different form of, it's a very long term. Certainly it's like decadal.
Sure.
If you look at I took an example of Gaiton Deji or Van Gogh or something. Look at the art when they were selling those art. Gaiton Deji paintings were selling for 1,000 rupees or 500 rupees. Van Gogh could
And
not
it's
sell.
worth what now?
It's worth like 60, 70 crores. Hussain Sir paintings was being sold for 40, 50,000 or maybe 1 lakh. The painting which sold for 120 crores recently. I think the painting was sold for $1,000 or 1,000 rupees. What I don't know exactly price, but
The original.
the original. So the original painting, which was in, I think, Sweden or
No,
somewhere,
I'm saying the original sale took place
at those price, on those. So that maturity level, 40, 50, 60 years of maturity of art is there. And also I would agree with, generally one of the corollary to this is if the artist has expired, who has become famous in his lifetime, that is where his why value appreciates disproportionately, is that he dedicated his life to the art. Not something like I'm doing art today, tomorrow I'll do something else, like Mitu said. It is not going to happen that way. We know we need dedicated artists also who will spend their lifetime. And most of the artists worldwide, except Picasso or some of them, mostly have died either poor or pauper.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Which is why it comes to the second part of this conversation, Mitu. You've done this successfully, but you do more things beyond just paint and sell your own art. You facilitate for other people, and I will come back to you on this one as well. I mean, I think a lot of people discovered even during the pandemic that they might have a penchant. And if not just a penchant, they might have a talent for art. But they have, like a lot of people do in the realm of sports and in, the performative arts, decide that there is not enough a market for them to justify leaving their 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 9 to 9 job, which is remunerative, to do this full time. Why do you think that is?
See, I'll tell you, every startup starts with a pain point. Yeah. You know that. Yeah. So my pain point was exactly this when I set up Dolna. Right. And I saw that institutes, colleges, they're teaching art. I was in Shantiniketan. Right. And I'm seeing that they're teaching. And there's a huge repository of outstanding talent. Right. Unheard of. If you go and see, you'll realize what kind of talent. But they don't know what to do with the art. They don't know the next step. So when I saw that, I said, we need someone to hold their hand, to guide them, to mentor them. So my belief is that if you're an artist today and you're starting out in life, get a mentor.
Get a mentor.
Get a mentor.
Okay.
Believe and trust in him. And then find your way. You can evolve beyond the mentor also.
Ultimately, you're a collector of art and you probably look at a different spectrum of art. And I take the point, right? Ultimately, you have to put bread on the table. You have to keep the kitchen fires going, as Mitu said. But then how do you elevate beyond that?
Look, always, unless there is deep pain, the art will not flourish in the artist. He won't find himself, as Mitu has said. He has to find himself. I have seen Mark Rothko paintings, and means when you go there, you get immersed, you can start crying if you understand that art. You need to know the journey of that artist. You have seen Gaitonde painting, he makes you cry because you know the story of the artist. Those kind of things give the value to the paintings which you have been saying. Why some of them are valued disproportionately high. If you look at Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat, he died at 27 years with a heroin overdose. But his paintings sell for hundreds of millions, or maybe 10, 20, 30, 100 million. So unless and until you know the journey of the artist, you know the pain he has gone through, the pain which is reflected in this art. Means if you look at Mark Rothko, there are 4 squares. But why they are there? Why that paint was used? Why that kind of time? What time frame it was? If you look at blue period of Picasso or the red period, where he started doing cubism.
But for a lot of people, this is going to sound like Greek and Latin.
Yes.
So therefore, the question is for my audience, which is largely, of course, they're familiar with things like Picasso, they're familiar with things like Hussein. But to start things out, to cut their teeth, do you think that they should buy for themselves first and then think about investing later?
It is always good to start buying. You may make mistakes, you may not make mistakes.
Sure.
But always there is a tuition fee to be paid. As we say in the market.
Yeah.
A loss is a tuition fee. A bad investment is a better tuition fee.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches better than the market what teaches you. So, जुना पुराना कहावत है बाजार में भाव भगवान है. तो ये tuition fee है, and it is a process which everybody, and we are a very growing country.
Sure.
And the capacity to invest in art is disproportionately going between the Gen Z and the large corporate players, individual investors.
Self-actualization. Ultimately, it will lead to spending on other things. But having said that, and just to close out this conversation, you've given some advice to young artists, people that want to start out, maybe older artists who've gotten tired of their corporate job and want to try their hand at painting that they never did. But would you say that buying a painting that you like, that speaks to you, even if it may not be the best investment down the line, is better than choosing something that you don't understand? Because at the end of the day, if you're not able to sell it, you still have something to admire.
Yeah, no, we can't look at it this way.
No,
not at all. Because what you love and you buy is already serving its purpose. You loved it, you bought it, and that's the end of the story.
First type of buyer that you spoke of.
That's the passion buyer. But when you're buying for investment, it's a science, it's a strategy.
Sure.
And it must be understood. Today, Deutsche Bank, it has, I think, 60,000 artworks across 900 locations. Taj, the hotels, they have 4,000 artworks. Sure. It's a parallel economy running.
Right.
It's an investment. Hotels is one. There's a retailer who everyone knows, Damani, I think, D-Mart. He's looked at more as a real estate than retailer because every D-Mart is owned by him.
Sure.
He's not paying rent.
Yeah.
So, so now what I want to tell is the corporate collective must look at art as investment. One, okay? Where the artist is concerned, he must see how to get auction ready.
Sure.
How to get, market ready.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean, of course, art and commerce are considered like strange bedfellows. Yeah. But today is the marriage. It's that today is the marriage. It's beautiful. If an artist can be rich, it's not the money. The artist can't stop painting.
Yes.
Okay, if there's a buyer, the soul gets happy.
Sure.
And it blooms even further, it evolves. So now I feel where emerging artists are concerned, understand the market, find your voice, find your style, work on it, get a mentor. But between the age of 35 and 45, when you are at your peak, your hands are steady, your eyes are the best, everything is working for you. Keep some of those best works with you.
Sure.
And you become a patron of your own art.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, and speaking of patrons of the arts, let's hope that we kickstart the Renaissance movement for India
Yes.
in the art world. Thank you so much to the both of you for taking the time. And to you, dear viewer, hopefully we've given you a sense of what the art scene looks like from an investor's lens. Let us know what you think, and do stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.